From the Windows, Doors, and More Studios, your one-stop shop for all your kitchen and bath needs. The Pat Miller Program. Whoa, 92.3 FM and 1190 AM. Depend on it.
Hi, everybody, and welcome in. Very glad that you're here with us as we are here on this Saturday, every Saturday from noon to 3. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. Don't forget, when I'm on the air or even after I'm gone, you can email me, Pat Miller, all one word, no dots or dashes, patmiller@wowo.com. Let's dive into it, shall we? Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. Now, we know that earlier this week that the president and others were at Normandy as we celebrated the 80th anniversary of the storming of that beach, 80 years ago. And there were some that were there that were part of that, 100 years of age and higher that were there. In fact, a sad story I read the other day is that one died en route to Normandy for the celebration. I believe he was 102 years old, and he passed away while he was on his way there. And that's very sad. But, thankfully he made it the first time he stormed Normandy and was very successful. And we remember you, sir, for what it was that you did. But Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said this. Now, follow this. We all know the story of what happened at Normandy. In fact, if you want to see something, even if you don't like the whole movie, go to Saving Private Ryan and watch the first 45 minutes of the movie, and you will see the landing at the beach. And it's filmed in real time, and you get a real sense of what that was like when they landed. Some of them never made it to shore. Some never made it out of their boats. They landed on those flat-bottom boats where the front laid down like a ramp, and some of the Germans up on the hill began to shoot immediately. Some of those Americans died in those boats and never had a chance to get to water, which is really amazingly sad. But some did. But here's what he said. This is what Anthony Blinken said. The same resolve that the extraordinary men and women that we're celebrating today showed then, Joe Biden is showing us now. What? Joe Biden, not that he hasn't shown it in the past, but Joe Biden is showing us that same strength, that same resolve now. Mr. Blinken, the more that you say things like that, and I know you do it for job security and to support the guy that's your boss and that whole bit, but sometimes when you take your abject praise of the president to a ridiculous level, and by doing it, you're also almost demoting the memory of the people that did show extraordinarily bravery and valor at the time, you just make it look like it's ridiculous. Not to be outdone, Adrian Elrod, who is a campaign spokesperson for Joe Biden. Now, whether you like Biden or not, listen to this statement and just listen, and then you establish in your own head, how close to reality is this? I can tell you that he is sharper than ever. Really? Adrian went on, I don't even know what that question means. How much should a candidate's cognitive function factor into that decision when someone votes? What do you mean you don't understand what that question means? That question means there are a lot of Americans out here, your humble host included, that you're a little concerned that if, in fact, Joe Biden continues to be the banner carrier for this country, we might be in a little bit of trouble. We might just be in a little bit of trouble. You don't understand. Wow. So Blinken and Elrod showing their lack of ability to grasp what's going on. Look, this whole thing that the president has done, this extraordinary step that he took this week where he signed the executive order, 2,500 illegals a day can get in per day, but then that's it. Okay. The supposed stopping or limiting or capping of the migrants at $2,500 per day is meaningless. Question, who's going to be doing the counting? Okay, you've got 4 or 5 ports down there where they can come across. Who's doing the counting? And if the cap is imposed on one day, which the arbitrary number is reached, what happens the next day? Another 2,500, of course? All breaking of the law to enter the country, this is like giving shoplifters a maximum they can steal before they're arrested and persecuted. Okay, here's how much you can steal per day, but then after that, we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. Okay, really? That's your position? I mean, that's like saying you're going to give shoplifters, okay, you could steal up to $1,000, but then after that, you're going to be arrested. Wait a minute. Wait. They're doing that already in California, aren't they? Yeah. So, look, immigration is now, as we knew it would be, is one of the top issues for voters in 2024, which is why the Biden executive order. He didn't just come out and say, we've got to do something about the border. You know, he wasn't having breakfast one morning with Dr. Jill and said, hey, Jill, I've got to do something about the border. It's out of control. If it's out of control and you know it's out of control, Mr. President, you don't say, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to sign this executive order no more than 2,500 a day. How about this? I'm going to sign this executive order no more. That's it. We're done. No more come in. Why aren't we doing that? Look, all breaking of the law is breaking the law. And now that you know, Mr. President, that immigration really is one of the top issues for voters in 2024, you're feeling the need to step up and to do something, not out of conscience, but out of response to a political necessity. Not the necessity of controlling the border, your attempt to control what's going to happen in the election in November. This is the problem with so much of what happens in Washington, D.C. A small group of people, some elected, some appointed, decide for more than 300 million people what they think is the best for them, for us, for people like you and me, when it is more about what is best for themselves and their political careers. Joe Biden issued 94 executive orders undoing everything Donald Trump did to really secure the border. One order pretending to get tough won't make up for 94 previous orders giving up and gutting border security. You have absolutely gutted border security since the day that you took office. In fact, with starting to get rid of the things that Donald Trump put out there, you began to do it the very moment you became president. When Joe Biden said earlier this week, I've come here today to do what the Republicans in Congress refused to do. Take the necessary steps to secure our border. I'm moving past Republican obstruction. Okay, this is all for smoke and mirrors. This is a show game. That's all this is. And some people will see this quote and they'll go, yeah, the president's doing what the Republicans have been passing laws all along the way, Mr. President. You're the one that undid what President Trump did, and now you will not instill what the Republicans are trying to make you do. I'm moving past Republican obstruction. Stop lying to me. I'm moving past Republican obstruction, and I'm using the executive authorities available to me as president to do what I can on my own to address the border. Republicans have left me with no choice. I'm doing my part. We're doing our part. Congressional Republicans should do their part. They've been doing their part. You have obstructed them for 3.5 years, not the other way around. Your big problem, sir, is you are now quaking in your boots because your campaign people and people in your party are making it very clear to you that if you keep going down this road and doing what you're doing, that in fact what's going to happen is you're going to be undone and you will no longer be president of the United States. Then Biden said, due to the arrangements that I've reached with Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the number of migrants coming to our border unlawfully in recent months has dropped dramatically. Well, not dramatically. There has been a slight drop, but and part of that's the heat, but not dramatically. Get it to drop all the way down. Don't say 2,500 illegals can come in. Slam it down. Shut it down. We're going to talk when we come back about how many people can come in to our country every year legally, and it doesn't upset our apple cart or our economy or the way that we live here. That's what's happening on this Saturday. We continue ahead. When I come back, we do it straight ahead. WOWO 92.3 FM, 1190 AM.
This is the Pat Miller Program on WOWO 92.3 FM at 1190 AM and on the WOWO app.
Hey, welcome back again. Saturday, glad you're here. Always here with you every Saturday from noon to 3 on the Pat Miller Program. And remember, you can always email me, Pat Miller, all one word, no dots or dashes, patmiller@wowo.com. I don't have a chance to answer every email I get. We get quite a few. I read every one, but I try to answer them. And this week, I'm going to try to answer even more, as I've got a little bit more time on my hands this week than I do normally. We were talking a little bit about immigration and the president, where now he's coming out with this executive order of his, and he's acting like we should thank him for everything that he's doing because he's so amazing. I don't view it as amazing. That's just me. The president went on this week and he said this: to protect America as a land that welcomes immigrants, we must first secure the border and secure it now. Doing nothing is not an option. We have to act. You've been saying for 3.5 years we don't have to do anything because you've been saying for 3.5 years that we don't have a problem at the border. Is that not true? Is that not true? You've been saying over and over and over. And your little puppet mimic there in the press room, she's been standing there every day saying there is no problem with the border. There is no problem. I'll tell you one group of people I'm upset with. Okay, the media, the national media, those that are crammed into the press room there. And when we've got somebody who stands up there and says, well, no, the president's doing everything. This president is outperforming every other president when it comes to immigration. There is no problem at the border. Well, then what's all this ruckus this week? What are these great executive orders that he's doing? These executive orders are trying, but they can't because there's too much involved here, but they're trying to restore some of what we had under President Trump. Why? Why are you doing that? Because you know you've screwed up. And you don't really care that you've screwed up, and you don't care how it's screwing the country up. Your problem is that your people in your campaign are now letting you know the American people are aware that it's screwed up. And that's what you've got to get on top of. That's what you're trying to get ahead of. I don't know that you can. I know that you'll try, but I don't know that you can. It's kind of like the gas prices. They've announced they're going to go in to the Northeast Gas Reserve. This is not the National Petroleum Reserve. We've already raided that twice. But now they're going into the Northeast Gas Reserve, and the president's going to take out 1 million barrels or whatever it is. How many times can we do that and still maintain our petroleum and gas reserves? How many times can we do that? It seems like this president is trying to do it every chance he gets. Why? Because he knows you and I are upset because of gas prices. When we're $1.10, $1.12 higher now than we were the day that Joe Biden took office, he now is in a panic. He now has 4 months, 5 months to get gas down. Okay, let's say he does. Let's say he goes and he raids the Northeast Gas Reserve. And in doing so, he gets gas price. Now, he's not going to get them down $1, but let's say he gets them to drop 70 cents a gallon. And everybody starts applauding. As soon as we get past Election Day, what's going to happen to the price of gas? It's going to shoot right back up. It's going to go right back up because there's nothing he can do about it after he gets past the election. He can't continue to do it. I can't even believe that people within his own party keep giving him a pass. To protect America as a land that welcomes immigrants, we must first secure the border and secure it now. Doing nothing is not an option. Well, you've been not optioning for 3.5 years. Look, Jay Johnson, who was the DHS chief under President Obama, he said 1,000 illegal border crossers a day was a bad day that, quote, overwhelms the system. Well, it looks like the Biden executive order is going to formalize any number below 2,500. Well, according to Jay Johnson, then, that makes every day a bad day, doesn't it? A truly bad day. I like Tom Cotton. I know Tom Cotton is one of them that's being named as one of the final 8 that Donald Trump is considering as his running mate. But Tom Cotton, who is one of my favorite senators in the country from Arkansas, he says the only acceptable number of illegal immigrants is 0. Do you know how many immigrants we should allow a day? Whatever 1/365th is of the amount that our State Department, because there's a number that they come out with every year, and in that number, that's the number that we could have come in here legally, where we know that we can bring them into our country and it won't upset the apple cart. How many is that? Well, the number that the State Department comes out with is about 1 million a year. Do you know how many 1 million a year is per day? It's 2,740. 2,740. That's only 240 more than the amount of illegal immigrants that the president wants to allow in. Well, if we're going to accept his number of the 2,500 today of illegals, and we're going to allow that, then that means legally we can only allow another 240 in every year in order to absorb them. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's more than just numbers. When people come in here legally, we vet them. They go through a process. We know who they are when they get here. When illegals come in, it's not just a number. I mean, out of that 2,500 today illegally down at the southern border, how many of them are already criminals in Venezuela or El Salvador? How many of them are already wanted for murder wherever they're coming from? How many of them are problems? How many of them will come here and murder again, like the one did just not long ago in Virginia, and the one in Georgia, and the couple in Florida, and the guy down in Beaumont, Texas, that blasted his neighbors away on their porches? All of them here illegally. If we had a system in place that reflected not just who they are, but who we are, we would cut the illegal number to zero. Zero. And I'll tell you what, and I've not talked to anybody from Donald Trump's campaign about this. I would like to, and I'm going to try in the next couple of weeks to get a hold of the couple of people that I know that are working with President Trump. Here's what I want. I want a promise to not just cut the illegal numbers across the southern border to zero. I also want a plan for us to go and find those who have already come into our country illegally. Find them and send them home. Find them and send them home. Look, polls are showing us, the Wall Street Journal tells us, polls are showing us that the border has moved to the top of voter concerns. And a significant majority of those people believe Donald Trump would do a better job handling it. Why? Because he did. The wall didn't get done, but that wasn't on Trump. It was because Trump got bamboozled in the election, and then when Joe Biden became president, everything that could have happened in all of it to secure our border was gutted. Gutted down to nothing. Mary Catherine Ham, she writes for Town Hall. She writes for Hot Air. She's one of the writers for The Federalist. Terrific woman, terrific articles that she writes. She says this is not a border crisis for Democrats. This is a re-election crisis for Democrats. It's not always just what you do. It's why you're doing it. Better get a handle on this. I'm just telling you, we had better get a handle on this. Hey, why do we say the things that we say? How have we picked up on some of the things that we say in the course of our everyday life? And then I'll get back to some political stuff later. I need a break from it. I'm pretty sure you do too. Okay? So we're going to do that. Let me step away for a minute. We're going to the bottom of the hour when we come back. Why we say the things that we say, like run for the money. Where did that come from? We'll talk about it straight ahead right here on the Pat Miller Program every Saturday here on WOWO 92.3 FM and on 1190 AM. You ever wonder why we say the things that we say? And I don't mean things that we say just because we're angry or things that we say because we don't know an answer. No, the things that we say in normal life. Why do we say things that have become part of our language? In the English language, all kinds of meanings and interesting origins abound about different stories. I mean, over the decades, certain words used together have become popular phrases used in everyday language. Like, for example, when you say, man, that is so cool. That is so cool. Well, you know, before the 50s, so cool, you were talking about the temperature. If you said, man, that is really so cool, that means, well, what? Because it's below 50 degrees. What is so cool? Or when you look at somebody and go, dude, that was really sick. Well, that became a phrase that, if something's really sick, that means it was over the top great. Man, that band was so sick. Expressions like out of the blue and under the weather have different meanings than the words might mean. I mean, out of the blue doesn't mean it came out of the blue. It means it came out of nowhere. Under the weather, if you say, well, where's Pat? Well, he's under the weather. You think what? You're sick. There's something wrong. So where do these sayings come from? I just found 3 of them, and I'm going to share them with you. I find them interesting. How about this one? Well, that was a rookie mistake. Well, if you're in sports, a rookie is usually somebody who is in their first season or their first year or whatever. And when you make a rookie mistake, it usually talks about somebody doing some kind of a misstep because of their lack of knowledge or their lack of experience. Somebody that's learning to drive for the very first time might accidentally hit curbs when they're turning with their tires and all that. That would be a rookie mistake. The origin of the phrase is unknown, but the word rookie is believed to have originated from the word recruit. It was used in the 1860s to apply to new members of the military or new members of law enforcement. That guy's a recruit. The Oxford English Dictionary defines rookie as a new recruit, especially in an army or a police force with an extended use of a novice in a particular field or profession. That was a real rookie move. We do it around here. Somebody will do something around the station, and I'm like, what? And they go, well, it was just a rookie mistake. What does that mean? It means, they're new. They don't have their feet wet yet. Par for the course. That's another phrase. Par for the course. And it may have a golf history, but it's being used and has been used in everyday jargon. The phrase comes from the sport of golf as it refers to the number of strokes that you need as an expert to finish a hole or to finish a course. If it's a par 5 hole, then, if you do that, or if the entire course is a par 72, if you drive 72 that day, well, then that's par for the course. It began as a figurative saying after the 1950s. Some people might say, well, they've made a mistake, but it's par for the course, suggesting that it was a mistake that was bound to happen. And our last one, a run for their money. Let's give them a run for their money. That's thought to have evolved from terminology that's been laid out for horse racing. Again, going back to Merriam-Webster, the phrase means to make it difficult from someone to win a game or a contest by trying hard and playing or performing well. For example, a runner might give another running competitor a run for their money if they're quick and they want to run the race. The first recorded usage of the phrase is believed to have been in 1874 in the Slang Dictionary. You got to get yourself a copy of the Slang Dictionary, by the way. It's a hoot to read through the stuff that's in that dictionary, and some of the stuff that we take for granted. And then you're a little surprised of the stuff and where it comes from and how we ended up with it. But that's par for the course, I guess. Glad you're with us. Going to step away here for just a little bit and going to be back with segment 4 here in this first hour of the Pat Miller program on this Saturday. We're going to do it. Remember, you can write me at 46862 to send your text, 46862. Text the word WOWO, and then your question or comment. It comes to me right here. Or you can email me, Pat Miller, that's all one word, no dots or dashes, patmiller@wowo.com. That's patmiller@wowo.com. Back with more straight ahead right here on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
This is the Pat Miller Program on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM and at WOWO.com.
And welcome back. One little segment we've got to get through here as we continue to be ready for all that goes on here, to be ready for the Saturday and to get us set up. In the next half hour, our weekly guest, Philip Wegman. He is the White House correspondent for Real Clear Politics. Philip, of course, who grew up here in the eastern part of Allen County, went to Hillsdale College, and then has landed in D.C., and he is there and has been now for several years a writer, a member of Real Clear Politics. If you'd like to find out more about Philip, you can do it. Just go to realclearpolitics.com. That's realclearpolitics.com. At the top of the page, click on authors and click on Philip Wegman, and all of his articles will show up. They are laid out there with the most recent first, and then going back over his whole time being there. So hi, welcome folks. Glad that you're here with us. Pat Miller here. Let's go back to some of our what I call our quick takes. A couple of other quick takes that I want to get to with you. This is from White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, and Mrs. Jean-Pierre said, "We are constantly and will continuously look at all options to try and really deal with the immigration system." Okay, my question, why? You've been telling me for 3.5 years that we do not have an immigration problem. So why is now the time? Because, as one that we quoted a little bit earlier, the Democrats right now do not have an immigration problem. They don't. That's not their problem. Their problem is they have a re-election problem. Mary Catherine Ham told us that in The Federalist. This is not a border crisis for Democrats. This is a re-election crisis. And there have got to be people around the president now who are trying to find new ways to get his attention and to say, Mr. President, this really is something. We've got to do something here. We have a problem that's larger than life, and we had better deal with it. Deb Fischer, who is a Republican, she is a senator from the state of Nebraska, and she said the message of President Biden's executive order, you can enter our country illegally, just make sure you're one of the first few thousand each day to do so. I mean, as stupid as that sounds, and be honest with me, when I say that, okay, look, you can enter our country illegally, just make sure you're one of the first few thousand each day that does that. That sounds so dumb, but that is exactly what his executive order says. He really could have used his authority all along. I mean, he could have. The whole time he's been president, he could have used his executive authority all along. What did he use it for? He had 94 executive orders that he issued very early in his presidency so that he could sit there and undo what President Trump had done. And he kept doing it. Why did he keep doing it? Because of the gracious applause he kept receiving from people on the far left and the people in his party. That's right. Take everything that Trump put on us and undo it. Way to go. Now he's using his authority to try to put back into place a little bit of what President Trump had done, limiting illegal aliens. That it's Joni Ernst, who's Republican from Iowa, said he could have done this all along. And then she added this, bottom line, never trust a man whose uncle was eaten by cannibals. What? Yeah, that was another little bit of a misstatement made by the president somewhere during the course of the week. Economy and finance is another area that the president's going to have to look at. And listen, competence matters. If you look, more than 90% of Biden's top economic and finance team have no experience running a business. None. We've got an energy secretary who knows nothing about energy. And not to be outdone, we've got a transportation secretary who knows nothing about transportation. They are lawyers, they're academics, they are all these things. They are politicians, they're government employees, but they are not experts in their fields. That is not what they do. Because of all this, we need people who are experts in their field. Experts in their field, whether it's finance or economics or oil production. All these people making all these decisions about oil production and, well, it doesn't really matter. And it does matter. I mean, it really, really, truly does matter. They need to get to the point where they understand this. They need to get to the point where they figure it out and they stand by it because they know what they're talking about. Joe Biden does not know what he's talking about. He just doesn't. And I'm not trying to be cute or anything. He literally does not know what he's talking about. And therein, we've got the problem. Selena Zito is interesting, and she says this because it understands. This is somebody that understands business, and she says this: big box stores have an advantage over independent grocers because of their buying power, giving them an advantage to lower prices over the mom and pop grocers. In an era where inflationary costs, are causing consumers to look for bargains anywhere they can so that they can stay within their budget, loyalty to a local store suffers. Well, what does that have to do with Biden? Well, not with Biden directly, but with the left and how they want to run businesses. It is. It's kind of like when we had the whole argument about minimum wage. We need to raise the minimum wage. Well, it's not a minimum wage. It's an entry-level wage. But when you raise it to a great extent, what happens is what's going on in California right now. In California, you've got a governor who says, we're going to fix everything. I'm not real sure about that. Because in California, you've got some complete restaurants that are going out of business. I mean, that when you take a minimum wage from 14 or 15 up to 20, you didn't fix anything. Well, they're making more than they did. Well, they're getting ready to make nothing because their jobs are getting ready to go away. And then one other area that I got a little bit of a problem with the president. Joe Biden is making, in my view, a claim that is blasphemous. Because Joe Biden made the statement this week that the image of God means changing your biological makeup. Sir, in the book of Genesis, which is a God book, God said that he made them male and female. Not kind of male and kind of female, not male and female and not sure, and not cisgender and mixed gender and non-gender. I mean, we've come up with so many now. We're going to have 3,000 pronouns we're going to have to be calling students by before this decade is over. God said male and female. The image of God does not require surgical mutilation. It doesn't. God created order. Anything else is disordered and needs redemption. It does not need affirmation. It does not need celebration. It doesn't need me to hug them and put my arms around them. That's not how it works. Ian Hayworth said this: what makes Anthony Fauci, because Anthony's back in the news this week, and basically he's coming out and he's I don't understand all these problems with the masks. I never said we had to do masks. I never said it. Okay, you're as bad as Joe Biden. Joe Biden says, I never said it. Joe Biden doesn't remember what he said. You do remember. You're just lying. Okay? Anthony Fauci, whatever amount of respect I still had for him. Do you realize Anthony Fauci was the highest paid person in the federal government? President of the United States makes $400K a year. Anthony Fauci made about $20,000 a year, more than that. And for what? But Ian Hayworth says what makes Anthony Fauci such a despicable figure in American life is that he greedily became the ultimate metaphor for the pseudo-intellectual elite that have been taking control over our modern society. And therefore, part of the reason why trust in institutions and scientific reason, and that's why the trust in them has nosedived. For Fauci, it was never about the science, but the cult of celebrity. Anthony Fauci liked the fact that people listened to him and did what he said to do just because he said it. That's the bottom line. I'm not making that up. That's why he garnered so quickly and so badly to come up with these edicts so that you and I would follow them because we had to. And it's because he made us do it. I remember when Fauci came out with the whole mask mandate thing. You remember that? Of course you do. And then you would see him at a Washington, D.C. baseball game in the stands without a mask. Well, we were outside. Well, we were told we had to do it outside, whether we were, within 6 feet of somebody. Well, 6 feet. You were sitting right next to people in the baseball field. And when you turn and talk to each other, that's not 6 feet. Why do they say it, Pat? Why do they keep doing this and trying to get away with it? Because they can. Because they can. That's why. That's why. We better get a handle on all of this because we're losing ourselves. If we keep having a president and a staff and a cabinet and heads of different agencies in our government who keep telling us, this is what matters, this is what you need to do, this is how we'll deal with it. If that's what we're doing, then at what point does it stop? At what point does it stop? Listen, if Joe Biden thinks that he can just put out edicts and come in and claim part of our homes as government property, he's going to have a real problem on his hands. Because one of the reasons that we have been given the right to bear arms is for the protection of our own family and our own homes. Right? Look, we either understand the Constitution or we don't. So I'll ask again. Right? Yes, it's right. That's why we have it. And that's why we better have it. And that's why we better hang on to it. The whole situation that we have now in our government is a situation that with the President of the United States and his minions, energy secretaries that don't know anything about energy, transportation secretaries who don't know anything about transportation. Look, the whole reason that the former mayor of South Bend is now our transportation secretary is because the former mayor of South Bend wasn't going to be able to win re-election as mayor of South Bend. Why? Well, one of the reasons was because he had so screwed up the routes of transportation through the city of South Bend. So you've got a guy who in his own town screwed up transportation, so now he's running transportation for all of us when he's not on maternity leave. This is nuts. This is just nuts. If you want to do a study on insanity, look at the decisions made and the position held by our transportation secretary, okay, Pete Buttigieg, and you look at that and you follow that, and then you tell me on what planet does any of that make sense? None of it makes sense, and yet that's where he is. We're shooting ourselves in the foot every day we keep putting up with the nonsense. We'd better understand where we are and what it is that we're doing. Coming up after the top of the hour, we're going to take our Fox News break here. And just the other side on the Newsmaker line from Real Clear Politics in Washington, D.C., Indiana's own Philip Wegman, and he'll be with us, and we will talk to him coming up straight ahead right here on WOWO 92.3 FM and 1190 AM.
Podcasts by Federated Media.